This is a short technical lesson on how tools are used, how carving tools are used to create a smooth surface. Now we've seen in backgrounds that we can do this with flat gouges, but there's a little bit more to it than just having the right tools. It's the way the tool is used, an idea about the technique, and this is what I want to share with you now. Here's a piece of wood that I've been carving on. At this point I've created lots of grooves over it, but they could be shortcuts, and I've allowed the cuts to arrive just above the finished surface. So I'm left trying to clean up all these grooves on this surface. Happens to be flat here, could be rounded, doesn't matter. So if we were to look at a cross section through this piece of wood, it would look a little bit something like this. These are the grooves that I've made with my gouge, and they're there coming along like that. So what I want to say is that what you have to think of is the next level will be putting another groove on top of that ridge there, and another groove on top of that ridge there. So we're left with this sort of shape here, like this. And then you put another groove, another cut on top of that ridge, and then that ridge. Do you see? So eventually you're left from this shape like this, you become a little bit more like that, and eventually very fine surfaces. So it's a matter of continually taking off these ridges all the way down, and you keep doing that, and you arrive at a flat surface. While I've got the paper here, I want to give you another thought. Imagine we're doing a rounded surface. Look at this. Do you see how straight lines, continually taking off the little ridges each time, produce a rounded surface? So you can create a rounded surface like a ball sort of shape by just taking off the ridges like this all the time with a flat gouge or even a chisel. So with a surface like this, say, you might want to start off with your flat gouge. But what I'm saying here is that even with a gouge that isn't flat, if you were to take these ridges off, and then to take those ridges off, and to keep taking these ridges off with finer and finer cuts, what you'd find is this surface getting quite flat. It isn't truly flat, of course it'll always have a degree of ridges in it, because this isn't absolutely flat gouge, but I hope you can see that this is getting flatter and flatter just by keeping going over it and removing the ridges with each pass. Now what's happening here, which is quite interesting, is that if I can show you on this gouge, here's a big gouge, this is a number 7. If I use just a part of it, then, and this is a number 3, this is a very flat gouge, this part of the bigger tool is actually the equivalent of a narrower, flatter gouge. So although I'm using this tool, if I'm only using a little bit of it, what I'm actually using is this tool. So even though I've got this big tool in my hand, I can do a lot of leveling and flattening before I even think about moving to a flatter gouge. By coincidence, a member wrote to me this morning asking about the very flat gouges, saying that the number 3 gouge in the Sheffield list didn't seem as flat as it could be, or even as it should be. And you know, he's quite right. Older tools, Victorian tools, are in fact flatter than their modern equivalents, which is very interesting. What it means is the circumference of the sweep of the older tools is much bigger. So that prompted me a couple of years ago to get together with Ashley Iles, and they produced for me a series of even flatter gouges than the number 3, and we've called those a 2.5. There's a big series of them, and they have a bigger radius, and I think I can demonstrate that to you now. Here are 2 carving tools, 2 flat gouges, and they look very similar. This is a file number 2, which is equivalent of a number 3 in the Sheffield list, and that's its sweep. In other words, when it's moving along the wood, cutting like this, this is the slight curve that it has. This one is the number 2.5 from from Ashley Iles, and that's its sweep there. And it's not easy to see that this is a flatter sweep. But if you extend that sweep, and I've done that here already, so I'm stabbing this in. This is the file tool. This is the number 3 on the Sheffield list, and this is the curve that it cuts. That's its sweep. That's the radius of the arc that this tool is based on. Now if you look at this tool, this is the 2.5 from Ashley Iles. This is the old school, if you like, very flat gouge. You see that the curve is a much bigger radius. So this demonstrates how this must be a lot flatter than the number 3. So if you want a really flat gouge, then the Ashley Iles 2.5, that's the way to go. But I hope you've also seen in this video that it's not just about the tool, it's the technique as well, and understanding how the tools work and how you can cut with a deeper gouge, you can actually cut a flat surface, and how you can use a flat gouge, chisel, to cut a rounded surface. It's all about technique.